Thank you, Mark. It's a pleasure to actually see your face. We haven't had that opportunity yet. Look forward to talking to you.
We have it. Likewise.
Okay. So this is now gonna be live stream. I forgot to say Mrs. Hartley's also here. I'm sorry for not saying you before, but someone must have stood up and I missed you. I seen you come in. So we lost a few people, but we've, it looks like we're gonna have 3 in our gallery today. That's
Very good.
That's Livy and Darcy and Mrs. Hartley. What's her first name? I forgot your first name, sorry. Kara, sorry. Okay, we'll call this meeting to order. Is this live stream now? Yeah. So this is live stream, everybody. MPC's over. We have 2 additions to our agenda. There are 3 additions. As you see, we'll start with items for discussion.
Refresh it.
Asset management cohort application. Do you want to talk about this, Curtis?
Yeah, last year, or the year before, we were able to take advantage of some grant funding to further develop our asset management plan and do the kind of the preliminary steps. The AUMA, RMA, and I believe another entity, which is escaping my mind right now, they received some funding to further develop those for municipalities. And so what we're asking for is to participate in a local cohort that's being spearheaded by the town of Pincher Creek to try and attract a bit more of that funding so that we can further develop that asset management plan. And the intent of the asset management plan is that it effectively will guide a lot of our capital budget planning that council will do every year, because the intent is that it's going to be going towards replacing the assets we currently have, as well as then identifying what we want to add and making sure that we have the appropriate funds to do so. So it will take us some time to adjust our finances accordingly to accommodate this, but it is a step in the right direction. And so there's a series of motions there that we're looking for to be part of this. And if you don't have any problems with it, we'll bring it to council meeting next week for your approval.
Okay, any questions from anybody? Councillor Foss?
The scope of the assets, you're talking any like property, equipment, any type of municipal asset?
Yes. So, I mean, it's primarily addressed to infrastructure, but we would be including equipment and things of that nature within that.
Okay, any other discussion from anybody? Comments? Okay, looks good then, Curtis.
So we'll bring that to council meeting next week.
Okay. 3.2, the playground reopening. Curtis, I sent you another thing from Tanya Thorne today too. If you want to pull that one up too.
We don't have that one added, so it'll be hard to get
It will
on
be.
there when we're live streaming. So do you have it available where you could reference, or?
I could go to it. So we had a lot of discussion last week about the playground reopening. On Wednesday I was at the, that's what it is right there. At the teleconference, Dr. Henshaw was asked the question, and she gave a great answer about the playgrounds, and you can read that. I told Curtis, let's wait for the transcript to come out so we have it officially from her instead of just from myself. And so he has, so there's your answers. Also, that Tanya Thorne sent me this. Did you guys all get this too, or is it just to me? Have you seen this before? It's on the screen right now?
Is this from Tanya Thorne that we've seen on the screen? We don't see the transcript from the town hall.
Dr. Henshaw?
Is this from Tanya Thorne?
This is from Tanya Thorne.
This is from the provincial government, this
which
attachment.
she's got from the provincial government, but it's the same thing that what Dr. Henshaw was saying. They can be open. The municipalities are not responsible for cleaning them or making sure they're cleaned or wiped off. It's really the parents that should be doing this. It says to ensure there's garbage bins with removable linings, and there should be signage there. And so this is from the government too. She just said that. So I could have got back, I'm sorry, probably I should have, Counselor Foss. I just told Curtis, wait for that transcript to come out and we can go from there.
Yeah, that's fine. This is the document, like the document we looked at last week, that memo came out on the 15th. That playground guidance came out the day after that document. So it's a different document than we reviewed last week. But it seems like the conditions on a municipality are quite light. Like I don't see
Yeah.
any concerns for me with that.
So you can see Dr. Henshaw said that there was a few different informations out there, and they were going to try to get them together and just have one. So I'm guessing that that's the one that Tanya sent out was the one document.
So unless council has any concerns, we are in the process of getting signage made. I'm hopeful that it's going to be ready for tomorrow. That'll basically effectively state what's been said, that the playgrounds are open as per social distancing and proper hygiene and maximum occupancy kind of requirements. And so that's up to the parents to kind of manage that. And that we won't be cleaning the equipment. And so as soon as we get those signs, we'll go and set them up and open the playgrounds. I haven't heard back from West Winds yet. There's a high likelihood that they'll be coordinating the reopening within Raymond with us, but I haven't had that confirmed yet. So it may just be the town parks, or it may be including the playgrounds at the school as well. But we'll try to make that more public when we get the information.
Okay, any
I
discussion?
do have a question.
Councillor Harker?
I'm a little bit worried about the signage, Curtis, because I feel like the more signage that we do, I mean, I don't know anything. I just was talking to somebody about liability. And if we start micromanaging with signage, does that make us more liable? Just a question.
No, part of the
If we start-
part of their recommendations is to put up signage. So we're just following exactly what they're putting in their guidance, which makes us following it to the letter, which I think reduces our likelihood for liability.
Is this signage just saying park is open? Like so people
Hey,
can, or is it saying like all the?
Just a second, Councillor Peters. Levy's just asking a question.
Right here.
I think these signage is just to let people know that the parents need to be disinfecting and taking some responsibility to themselves and to social distance. Am I correct,
Can
Curtis?
it just say?
Pretty much, yes.
Use at your own risk, Curtis? Can it just say use at your own risk?
I mean, it could. They suggest certain conditions, or not conditions, but certain recommendations, and so we're just listing those recommendations exactly us off the provincial guidance.
Oh, okay.
Because then no one can say
I have
we're
a
doing
problem
more or
with
less.
that, because as soon as, who is gonna make sure, who's gonna micromanage this to see if they're staying 6 feet apart, and if those children are in the same family? I think we're opening a can of worms, I'm just telling you. Because how even if somebody comes by, how do they know if those two children are in the same family, or if they're social distancing properly? I don't like putting because it's creating fear and stress. We don't need any more fear and stress.
So-
That's my opinion.
So
I'm
Ca-
sorry.
Councillor Peters had a question first, and then Councillor Foss.
This afternoon I was doing a little research on what other municipalities are doing. And I know it's in BC, but BC is following very similar protocols as far as putting signage up that would look very much like what Alberta, the province is looking to do for municipalities. So I think we follow in concert, like Ken Steed has told us over and over again. And I think we're protected that way. And I don't think it's gonna create more fear. I think that peace officers or anybody who's coming to look is gonna look and use common sense, and if kids are having fun and parents are looking after them, I think it'll all be good.
Councillor Foss.
Councillor Peters pretty well covered what I was gonna say. I don't think it's a burden on us, but we should follow, my view is we should follow the recommendations of the province to the T. Whatever they say we should do to reopen, I think we should just do that.
And
Well, I
just
think-
a
So you're gonna put all of this on a sign, this whole precaution thing? I'm just wondering.
No, it's a very generic sign that's being put up that just specifies some of the
okay.
specifics. And so it's similar to what the city of Edmonton and the town of Cardston are doing. We've coordinated, so it's a very similar approach. I don't see this adding at all to our liability. Councillor Harker, I think this actually just reiterates that we follow provincial guidelines, and if there is a problem, it's up to residents to make the complaints to the province, no different than they have been supposed to be doing from the beginning of this pandemic.
So what does that sign say? It's not on this page, obviously.
No, we don't have it quite made up yet, but it
Okay.
basically just states that stay 6
Yeah,
feet
I'm just-
away. Use, I'll try and pull it up here. It's not coming on my mind, sorry. Sure.
No, I'm just curious because I just don't like the scare tactic idea.
I think it's like Dr. Henshaw said, it's just common sense, they want people to practice, so. But you wanna have something there so people can read.
Just exercising due diligence.
Yep. Any other discussion on this? I'm glad to see it going up myself. Playgrounds need to be used by the kids. Okay. Let's move on to 3.3, fireworks. So I probably get approached, every time I'm in the public, I get someone approaching me about, are we having fireworks? I keep telling them, I sure hope we're having fireworks. So do you want to lead this discussion, Curtis, or how do you want to go?
Yeah, I can give some direction here for council if you'd like to consider. So we've been discussing with town staff that usually put it off with our fire department and with a local resident who is quite prolific with their own firework display. And given the challenges of COVID and restrictions that are there for public gatherings and not knowing exactly when those limitations will be lifted, we've actually worked out a deal with this individual where the town will just provide them with some additional funding that we would have spent on the fireworks, and this individual will put it on this year, and probably, well, we don't know if it'll go on for future years just because of venue, but given the fact that we're not hosting our regular Canada Day celebrations, it made sense just to scale back our operations, provide a bit more support for their operations, and then we will just have to work at managing crowds accordingly. It'll probably be very similar to what it was earlier in the year when they did a similar display where people will have to remain in their vehicles, or else we'll have to make sure that they're 6 feet apart and do some controlling in that sense, but unless the guidelines change dramatically. So unless council is against that direction, I will be informing our fire department to not go ahead and purchase fireworks, and that we will just provide an amount to this individual to supplement their existing show.
So I know we can't use names. We're trying to learn not to use names, but is it the one that's been doing it all this time?
Yes.
The other years?
Yes.
Great, that's awesome. I'm thrilled to hear that we're doing this.
So that'll be for this year, 2021. We'll have to readdress how that happens.
Any discussion from anybody? I'm like you, Joan. I think people have to use some common sense. We know about social distancing. We don't have to be mandated for everything. I think it's great we're going to be doing this. Any other comment from anybody?
I have an amount suggested, but I'll bring that up next week, maybe.
10,000. Okay, anyway, no other discussion on fireworks?
While we're talking about fireworks, do you mind if I just take a few minutes
Sure.
about July 1st activities? I didn't add anything to the agenda because that was on there, and this is just a great time to talk about it.
Sure.
I think the Rotary Club has just come up with an idea that, well, they've been kicking this around, but they would like to have a reverse parade, a light-up reverse parade. So they're gonna encourage the businesses in town to do a float as they would for a regular parade, but just have it in front of their business and have it lit up. So that people in the evening can just walk around and see everything, so people will walk through the parade instead of having the parade go through our neighborhoods.
Well, they told me drive, not walk, but they would drive by.
And you could probably drive by too, it depends on whether or not we wanted to close the street. So just something to have people to go through and see the stationary floats instead of the other way around. So I think it's a really good idea.
Everybody hearing this? Good time to discuss it.
And then, of course, other ideas, the staff have come up with a lot of ideas. They're really prolific in their ideas, and they want to have a whole bunch of things that are that are like live bands. They've got bands already signed up that will do this. And they want to encourage residents to have like maybe a contest to see who can light up their yard the best with the July 1st theme. So we really want to encourage everybody to decorate their yard, almost like they do for Christmas, so with a July theme.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
And then you're still talking about a barbecue, a family barbecue on the front yard?
Yep.
Between-
Anything that people want to do, just continue to do it within provincial COVID requirements. You know, you have to be social distancing, and you have to restrict it to 50 people or fewer. But people can still do family gatherings and barbecues.
On their front yard.
And we'd love to have people do it on the front yard so people going through town can see what's going on.
Good. Any
I have a
questions?
question for you, Councillor Fron.
Okay?
My mother was saying, is there anything wrong with having our band drive around town and play? Is there a problem with that?
No, there's not. In fact,
Okay. I just thought that might be fun, and she wants to do it because, you know, she's 91. She says, I might not be alive next year. Can't I do it this year?
Joan,
And I'm like, I don't know.
I was meeting with you and Karen, and they were telling me about the bands that have already signed up for it, and I was hoping that Ethel would want to do it again this year. So please do have them plan on that.
So is that how they're
Yeah,
all gonna do it?
I'll let
They're
her,
gonna drive
I'll let
around?
her know to get it arranged.
Okay, either drive around or park on corners during things, but there will be bands, several of them.
Oh, that's great.
And we'd love to have Ethel's band. In fact, it wouldn't be July 1st without us. So
We have a question from Libby. Go ahead, Libby.
Okay, just about the parade. What is the difference between having a whole bunch of people out walking around the cars versus people being out and having cars drive past them?
distancing, social distancing.
Yeah, I know, but you're not social distant, like, so everyone's just gonna walk around the cars and be 6 feet apart, is that?
Well, I don't know what, I have not talked with the Rotarians. Apparently, the mayor said their plan is to have people drive through, and that'd be good because you can have all the members of your family in one vehicle.
Yeah, but couldn't you plan something like everyone parks like normal, but you stay on your vehicle? Or have your chairs right in front of your vehicle, but you're 6 feet away from the next little group and just have that along the normal roads?
Maybe we could, but I think that'd be a
So-
nightmare.
Yeah,
It'd be a nightmare to do.
I don't know if we'll be allowed to have people walk through in that sense because technically it's still a gathering of over 50 people that's
Yeah,
outdoors.
I didn't get the difference.
So it'll probably
it's
have
not
to be
long.
vehicles driving and contained within, and you're driving through the parade instead of the parade driving through the people.
I think the Rotarians are still working this out, but they just presented that to me yesterday.
But part of the conversation is that there'll be bands playing at the beginning of the parade and at the end, and so you're hearing the music as you're driving by instead of as the parade's driving by you. So
But they're gonna work out the details and we'll get back to you, but I'm not sure they can be walking around the floats, I think.
No.
And that was my fault. I just said that having not spoken with Rotarians, so.
Okay, yeah, cause that makes more sense, I just
Yeah.
didn't see, doing it
Comment?
opposite didn't make any more sense.
And
So, okay.
Councillor Price is a member of the Rotarian, so go ahead, Councillor Price.
We have discussed this. We actually have another meeting tomorrow night that will add some more meat to the whole process, and then the anticipation is to get with Councillor Fromm to review it and to determine if that will fit into some of the plans that the town has. But I think it just makes sense that it be a walk-through parade rather than a drive-through parade rather than a walk-through to meet the distancing requirements. And it's just an effort to bring some music and some fun through that main core of downtown so that everybody can see what's going on and everybody can support the local businesses in that format. So
And
that's where we're at
still
right now.
feel very much like July 1st.
Yeah.
It's nice to see the businesses still getting involved by doing stuff.
And there's not a lot of businesses that do floats, so I'm not sure what else, maybe other people will be encouraged to have floats and you can drive by.
But even if they decorate their storefront or something like that with the July 1st theme,
I thought it would be fun
Bye-bye.
for families to do floats. Is there a problem with families doing floats?
I don't think so. But that's the Rotarians will come up with that, so I mean, I'm sure Councillor Price will take that to that meeting.
I will take that to the meeting, John.
Yeah, Counselor Price, families are pretty competitive, right? And if, if the Ralphs find out that the Harkers are doing a float, they're gonna wanna have one better, right?
It's good to me. We'll discuss that tomorrow night for sure, Joe.
Okay,
But Hugh and Karen have got a lot of good ideas, like a virtual road race, so, like Steeds are up on doing that, and so they're gonna go ahead with a lot of the plans, just in modified formats. So still have it as close to normal as we can.
so when's it gonna come out, their plans, like, by,
I should have brought them with me, but I just looked through my briefcase and can't find them, so I'll bring them out. But
so maybe by June, my next meeting, or?
they just need to have to go ahead basically tonight on the fireworks so that they can let the other party know, so that we can go ahead with those. But the other plans are pretty much ongoing, and so I'll bring those next week and let everybody know what they are.
Okay, is that okay, everybody?
But I did have that document last week. Did everybody get that?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's largely the plans that they've come up with, and I'm just gonna give them the green light to go ahead with those.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Councilor Brown,
Yep.
I think the key to all of this is advertising, so the sooner we can get a list of events that we are going to do for sure, we need to get that out and published so that people are aware that there are things going to happen.
Yes, and in that case, we'll do it exactly like we have other years too. So there'll be a flyer with everything that's going on and where.
Okay, good. Any other questions? Okay, great. We'll move on to 3.4, the proposed facility lease opportunities. Go ahead, Curtis.
This is just to bring to your information, council has directed administration to find new ways to develop new non-tax revenue opportunities to strengthen the town's fiscal position. And a few of those things we've done is to find lease opportunities with various spaces and facilities that we have within the town to local businesses to allow them to expand either their operations out of their homes or into another venue. And so 2 new opportunities have been brought to administration, and I'm bringing this just to your attention. I wasn't seeking necessarily approval just based on past discussion, but I wanted you to be aware. If there is something glaring that you'd like us to address, that's totally fine. We can take that into consideration. But a couple of years ago, we had a home business occupation effectively for Jerry's Pop Shop that was allowed them to facilitate their operation off the boulevard in front of their home. Luckily for them, and I guess for the community, their business has flourished to the point where that was no longer viable. And we worked with them to find an alternative location, and for the past number of weeks they've actually been operating out of the VSP parking lot where kind of the buses and ambulances would park, which I don't know if anyone has driven by there any time that they've been there, but it would rival Tim Hortons for the amount of people in the drive-thru. So it's been very successful, and they've actually approached the town wanting to know if they could access the 2 northern storage bays that we have in that VSP facility that we have there, and they'd like to actually begin leasing those facilities, and they would be responsible for the costs of the infrastructure to have a more permanent location. And so what we're hoping is that, what we're envisioning is that this would actually be a place where at certain times of the week we could actually attract other vendors who have food trucks, whether it be from within town for ones that start up or from others, where they could congregate there at regular times throughout the year to provide additional services and provide additional revenue opportunities for the community, because that parking lot's effectively vacant 95% of the time. And so it's a way to expand some of the business opportunities and services available to the residents, but also provide an additional opportunity for growth for an existing business that's had a lot of success thus far. So I'm bringing that to your attention. They will be responsible for the costs. The town would incur some costs up front, but they are willing to enter into an agreement where they will ensure that regardless of how long they stay, that the town's investments will at least be recouped. So it's a net loss. We only come out ahead in that aspect, and all the improvements would stay with the facility. They would still continue to operate their pop shop food truck at other venues in addition to that, but it's kind of that next step in their evolution. The second lease opportunity is a local proprietor that would like to operate a business within the Hells Creek Golf and Foot Golf course camp or course kitchen, and they'd like to call their business the Brimstone Grill, and they're looking to enter into a monthly lease with a goal of having that extend into a longer term lease should their operation prove successful. And so we will be entering into that agreement with them come, I believe, the beginning of July. And so it's two new revenue opportunities for existing spaces that were either not creating revenue, or in the case of the golf course kitchen, previously we'd make enough money from the kitchen to cover our costs, but not necessarily the wages. This effectively allows us to remove that cost and also generate a revenue source, while further providing employment opportunities to a local family who then doesn't have to commute. So there's a lot of positive benefits there for the community. So unless you have any major concerns, I would be giving both of these groups, I'd be entering into the lease agreements with both of these groups as per your previous direction.
So I have one question, and that's on point 2 on the first one. Why did you enter into a 48-month? That's a long time. Like, why is the term of the lease 48 months?
Sorry, which one are you referring to? Lease opportunity one?
The Jerry's pop.
They're going to be investing a fair bit of money into that location, and they want to make sure that they have the ability to operate within there. Currently, it's a storage unit, and so whether or not it's them or not, the benefit is there for the town. And so we felt that that was prudent to allow them to safeguard their investment.
So what about in future when we have football games going on and they're trying to have their concession there? What do you do there?
I mean, as stated in the attached lease agreement that isn't necessarily public, but it's attached to your agenda package, that they'd be willing to work with us with depending on whatever event is being hosted. If there's a conflict, then they'll just shut down, and if it's not, then they'll continue to operate. And so, I mean, I don't really foresee a problem if there's two concessions. We own both facilities, and if we want both to be operating, then we can. If it's a conflict with one group, that they're willing to work with the other group and facilitate whatever we can. So we're not concerned about that, unless you guys have something that we should be considering.
The only question I had was, what are the logistics like for Jerry's Pop? Like, how are they gonna access those storage space? Like, is it gonna be like a drive-through through the bus area, or is it gonna be walk up? Like, how are they proposing?
They're proposing it to
that?
be on a day-to-day basis more of a drive-through operation. If we do have other food trucks within that space, it would be a park and then walk in. They'll be putting windows on the north, east, and west sides of the building so they can facilitate people from all three sides. So if they do have to close down for an event because the parking lot's being used for buses, they can still access people from their east window. And if there's soccer going on the fields to the west, they can still provide service to those on the west if they wanted. So those would be kind of how they'd structure that there. We may have to put a gate in the fence, but those are minor.
They would have
I
to.
just want to kind of have a picture of what's gonna.
Yep, it's the existing look
How
at.
big?
Right now they have their, I don't know if you've seen it, but they have their food truck on the very south end of the loop. The food truck just wouldn't be there, and it would be within the building, and they'd have somebody delivering, I guess, the orders, taking the orders and then delivering the orders to the vehicles as they drive through.
Kind of like how they do it on the
Yep.
boulevard now.
Yep.
Councillor Computers, you have a question?
Yeah, a couple things. So I met with, I guess, principal at the high school and senior high school. They wanted to kind of express some concerns they have. First off, I think Jerry's is great. I've been in line way too many times to get a pop with my kids, so it's a great little business. I'm happy for those guys. Right now, you got the PB football program is using that one storage unit. They last year they went in and reshelled and did a whole bunch of work to get that all set up. That's in the northwest side. The northeast side just more or less contains some sponsorship signs, which could be moved. However, that is another area that we use for referees to change into before games, after games, and during time, halftime. Is there another room within that facility where we could access to either for storage or for referees to use?
Yeah, so with the restructuring of the various offices, we do have not as many staff working out of VSP anymore, and so there are offices that are available if needs be for referees. I'd have to talk with our staff to determine how or what we could do to relocate some storage, but I'm sure something could be worked out to facilitate that. My understanding was that those spaces were not being occupied and that it was the towns specifically, but if it's being leased out to another group, we can definitely try to make sure that there's, or not leased out, but being allowed to be used by another group, we can make sure that there's an opportunity for storage there still.
Yeah, the three on the east side, the high school uses one, the junior high uses one, the high school, like I said, had sponsorship signs there, but that's where referees were using. And then on the west side, soccer had the first two from the south, and then PB football, which is the grade 6 to 7 kids, have all their storage stuff in there. So they are kind of being used right now. And
the
if there's
town-
a way to find another place, I'm all for it. But
The town, I think the town uses the second one on the west. We have that for various storage things for ourselves, not necessarily for soccer. So I'm sure we can accommodate and adjust things accordingly, so.
Okay.
Councillor Foss has a question, then Councillor Price. Go ahead.
I think Councillor Price was first.
Oh, I'm sorry, I just looked. Councillor Price?
No, go ahead. Mine's actually on the other business venture, and so if you're still talking, Jerry's carry on first, Councillor Foss.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor Price. I don't have any resistance to it. I think these are good. I like that we're providing an opportunity for some local businesses here to be able to grow. Jerry's, I like Councillor Computers have been in the line many, many times. It's a popular spot in Raymond. I like to see them putting down some roots. I would have loved to see us explore a space downtown to kind of fill the donut, as we say, a little bit better. But I don't have any specific, like Councillor Computers does, any concerns. I am supportive in general of this.
Councillor, well, I have a comment first then. So why aren't they still using their trailer then to do it? Like, why do they have to move into a building?
They will be using their trailer still. It's just looking to expand their operation. So they'll be able to be in multiple places at once. They're tall guys in a small trailer. So they'd have to spend money to buy a new trailer. And they just felt that by utilizing the trailer and putting that money into a more permanent location would be beneficial for their operation. It's beneficial to the town as well. It's a new service the whole genesis of helping it grow your downtown is having your home-based businesses get out of their home and into a store bricks and mortar structure of their own, and that's a process. And so this is kind of that baby step out of your home, as it were, into a leased space that's not necessarily theirs. The goal obviously would be for them to obviously expand into something where they have a structure of their own, and that's hopefully something that maybe will happen one day, but this is kind of that first next step.
And they very well could outgrow this area and move to the downtown part, somewhere to kind of fill in the downtown eventually.
Yeah, I mean, the main challenge we have right now is just the availability of spaces and what the leases are. And so it may not be commercially viable for them yet, but this is kind of that next step. And if that does happen where they are able to go downtown, that's fantastic. We have an opportunity for a space that's been improved, that's been paid for by somebody else, that another entity could go in and fill in that space, should they choose. And it provides an extra service to those who are just within the community, but at sporting games. And the individuals in question are very proud local residents who are proud locals of the supporters of the local schools. And they're definitely not looking to cause problems. They're definitely willing to work in with the different events that are going on, as we kind of mentioned in the brief there. So we are not concerned with there being any conflict of interest. I think we can accommodate the space concerns that have been identified by utilizing some of the additional office space we have down there for our referee rooms of that nature. So we're confident that a good solution could be found.
Any other questions from anybody? Okay, I guess we can bring this forward next week.
Councillor Price, did you have questions?
Or you had
Yeah,
one on
Brimstone.
Brimstone, that's right.
Yeah, on Brimstone, based on what I read in the lease agreement, it was a 12-month lease with the opportunity to renew at the end. Is that correct?
Before I speak, let me just make sure.
That's what I read.
Yes.
Okay, so I would understand from that their intention is to keep this open year-round rather than not summer only, but it would be a year-round venture.
Correct. They're looking to do some evening. I mean, it's going to have to grow organically, and they're going to have to test it out based on the market. But their intent would be to have a year-round facility that would address the golfing crowd, but also provide more of a sit-down feel or restaurant for the public year-round. Similar to, I guess, what's happening in Sterling with Hickory Street.
Yeah. Okay. No, based on that, I think that's really the only way it could work that would allow them opportunity to get the exposure they need, and if they're creative, I think they could do well during the winter months with evening events and activities and meals. So.
Yeah. And one more thing, just for your information, the applicant is they're experienced in this industry already. It's not like it's an idea on a whim that they don't really fully understand what they're getting themselves into. They've already operated a business of this nature at a different location, and so we are confident that they understand what is entailed and how to do it, and that if there is a chance for it to be successful, that they have a very high likelihood of it being them. So.
Are they local by any chance?
Yes, they are.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have. I'm comfortable actually with both of them as long as we work with them to encourage them to grow and move forward along the way.
Okay, any other discussion on this? Okay, I guess it'll come back next week at council, Curtis?
Not typically, no. You guys have given us direction to find revenue sources, and this was intended just to be an update for you. We were just going to go ahead and enter those agreements unless you'd like it to come back for an official motion.
Okay,
It's quite exciting. I'm glad to see this going on.
Nice,
yeah, it's good, especially in this time period that we're having right now. Okay, we'll move on to 3.5. So Curtis and I met with Grant Hunter on Friday, and this meeting was supposed to be at 11 o'clock, and I got a phone call at 5 after 10 saying, "Why aren't you guys here?" Somebody had the wrong time, and I'm sure it wasn't us. But we got down there at about 10:15 and had just a 15-minute meeting with Grant. So we didn't get a lot of things discussed in detail, but one thing he told us, and it's not positive yet, but we're still hoping to get an MSI bump, but it's not 100% positive, but so I just asked Curtis if he'd bring this up. We don't know how much it'll be, we don't have any idea, but I just wondered, the community is sure thrilled with our walking trails. Like, my son lives on the walking trail down there, and he says on the weekend, there's gotta be 1,000 people walk by.
And they're beautiful. They really are nice.
So I was wondering if we did have that MSI bump, if we could do more walking trail, if that's what this council wants, and that's why I just wanted it brought up. Maybe we could look and see what they have planned for proposed ones, and if we could do any more. We're planning on doing from Stonegate to the hospital this year. In fact, in June, I guess, Curtis, right?
Yeah, they're starting the
Sort of
basing
speak up.
of 400 north, I believe, this week, early next week, and then after that's done, it should just be a couple-day job, weather dependent. They'll be moving to start the basing of the walking trail.
So I just wanted Curtis to bring this up. I wondered, even like around Corner Lake, we've talked about that, if we could even get that prepared so people could walk, and then all we have to do is put the pavement down sometime in the future. But it's all a big expense too. But anyway, I just wanted to bring this up. Anyone have any thoughts on this? It might not happen, we might not get that money, but if we do, we just want to be prepared.
When the trails are that well used, you know you're going in the right direction.
For sure. Go
I
ahead,
do have a question.
Councilor Harker.
So the phase 2 is from Stonegate up past the hospital, what you just said. And then, so, but we can't do the green part until 8:45 is paved, right?
Correct.
We'd like to do
So
it
we
together.
will- Pardon?
We'd like to do it together, yes.
Yeah, so you have to, you can't do that. So what are you proposing that you would do next if you get this extra money? What are you thinking?
So I mean, potentially phase 4, we're still working out the details as to where that route exactly would be, but that potentially could be. We will, depending on the amount of money that's offered, we will be coming to council with some suggestions. That will range from some of the additional capital projects that you've already identified. We'll go to supporting cash flow by reimbursing the town for projects that we've already started. The other aspect would be to try and utilize some of the excess capacity that we have to pay down additional debt, and so to free up room going forward in our operating budget. And so we do have a multiple number of scenarios that we'll be bringing to council for consideration, depending on what is given, and obviously it's up to you guys to decide how you want that spent.
So phase 4 looks like it's going behind the existing houses on the golf course.
For a portion of the way we're planning, we still are working out some of the finer details. That's not necessarily the proposed route as it says. The route's not yet finalized.
Okay.
But we
Yeah,
have,
because we talked about, I brought this up about 3 months ago, and you acted like it was kind of a no-no, but I'm thrilled with
it's
that.
not-
That would be amazing.
it's not ideal for a bunch of reasons, but it's not ideal any other way through Stonegate at the way it's currently developed. And so that's something we're considering. We don't have approval for it all yet, though, because it would have to be on private property for stretches, and we'd have to work that out and gain their approval. And so this is just proposed. It could very well not happen. We haven't given this proper discussion at council yet. This is just what Mayor DePew asked us to put together, kind of what we're thinking of how it could be pushed out. But
Well, if that happened, we'd have one of the most beautiful stretches of walking path probably in the province. That's pretty beautiful there.
Another part
Question.
is on the west side of the walking trail where it ends right now. You have that little bit there looks like it's on the green strip, and then it goes north towards Joan Harker's Road, whatever that road is.
Yeah.
Is there a big hill you'd have to go through? Is that hill in the way, or is it not?
I haven't gone and actually checked where it is, not based on the survey. That could be a challenge. It could just be on the lot further south. We'd have to go look at that,
Or
but
it
we
could
don't.
It could be further north too. There's some land there that's not on the hill.
Yeah, we're not sure. We'd have to inquire into that. So that's where we would extend it at some point. But we don't quite own all of the western edge that we're trying to acquire.
But we do own that right there to take it to that road. What did you say that number was? The road, Ken?
100 South, that's Jones Road, is 100 South.
To connect us to 100 South?
Theoretically, we do. It's just whether or not there's a pile of dirt on it that we'd have to work
Dirt
around.
or whatever. How much work there would be.
It looks like
to
it
do that.
kind of goes around the dirt.
And I
Where that
was
dirt-
wondering
where that
too.
dirt pile is, that, you know.
It looks
Yeah,
like it
we're
goes
just
under
not
the
sure,
land.
but that's the proposed path.
When I was there with Joe Canyo, yeah, there's some land there. I don't know who owns that land. But yeah, you could go around that. But maybe they should check that out too, just to see how much work that would do to do that. Because that'd be nice to connect it to 100 South, and people could go down the south and then get on the walking trail, and away you go. Anyway,
Question?
Councillor Foss?
I'm just curious, as we're, with some of these that they're going along roadways, so the green stretch proposed on 845, and then I know there's not a road at the east end of town, but potentially, is the treatment of this different than the sidewalk? Like, would some of the stretches of this be just a sidewalk, or are you envisioning some different?
So we're envisioning this to be the 6.5 foot width asphalt path, not a sidewalk necessarily. The portion along 845 will be a curb, concrete curb, and then we're envisioning the asphalt path, the costs are just such that we can get far more distance versus the cost for the concrete. But that's our initial plan. So I don't know if that answers your question. Various points are going to depend on if it's along a road or if it's in more of a green field. But the goal is to have it be asphalt.
So wider asphalt, and then would it be connected to the curb along the highway, or would there be some space between the curb and the walking?
Along 845, we have a design meeting on Thursday with the province to start discussing kind of what that 845 extension will look like. It's our intention to have that be curb and gutter similar to Highway 52. And so depending upon their recommendations, our initial vision, unless that changes, is to have the curb and then the pathway immediately adjacent to it.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion on this?
I got a question, Curtis. The blue section there, the proposed for this year,
Yep,
where it ends at the hospital there.
yep.
I drove by when we had the 2 or 3 days of rain, and there's quite a bit of water that
Yep.
was standing there. Is there a drainage problem that we're concerned about at all, or is right where the stakes were? So
Yeah, no,
I hate to put it down on every time it rains, it floods.
no, we were in our approvals with Alberta Transportation, we had to address how we would facilitate the drainage, and so there'll be some culverts placed at various points along there to help facilitate that. The path will be elevated a little bit depending on how it's going. It's not necessarily going to be right along the grade, and so there'll be a bit of an elevation depending on certain spots to address those culverts. There may have to be some shaping, but that's getting a little too technical for my knowledge at the moment. So.
Okay.
Anybody have, Councillor Harker?
So, Curtis, when you said that you're, right now, I guess you haven't been in the meeting yet, but if it's curb and gutter and then the walking path, like right next to the road, does that seem a little bit dangerous for, I don't know. I was kind of thinking that there might be like a boulevard, you know, like a grass boulevard and then the walking path, but you're saying it's just gonna be curb and gutter and then immediately the walking path.
There's not a lot of room.
So there's not a lot of difference between, I mean, Highway 52 has a 50-kilometer road with curb and gutter and a sidewalk. And so that's effectively what we're anticipating. As we've discussed previously, as we redevelop the sidewalks, we are looking to push them to the road to address the kind of orphan boulevard portion conversation that we have, where we have boulevards separated by sidewalks, which aren't necessarily as well maintained just because they're separate effectively from a property, but properties that have no sidewalk separating it maintain the property to the curb. And so we're going to try and address, as council has identified that as something you'd like to have looked at. When we do relocate the sidewalks, it will be tried to have it go right adjacent to the road. These are wider, 6.5 feet is wider than our standard sidewalk that we have now. Even the new ones, they're only about 5 feet wide that are concrete. So this would be about
And
a
I
foot and a
guess
half wide.
the speed limit on that road will be, what?
It's 50.
Yeah.
It's 50 now, just as Highway 52 is. So.
Okay. Just a question, thanks.
So hopefully we get this MSI bump and then we can have a better discussion on this, right, Curtis?
Yeah, we'll come up with a bunch. We'll find out how much the dollar amount is, and we have a list of capital projects that you chose not to fund this year that you can consider, and then there'll be some other additional measures that you can consider to kind of address some other issues that we may have.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, we're now moving into our closed session, so I need a motion to go into closed.
I'll move.
Councillor Higgy, all in favor? Thanks for coming, you three.
Yeah, just sitting around the bus as you guys.
A motion
Yeah.
for adjournment.
Oh, are we live?
Just a second.
Are you serious?
And we got
Go live to adjourn.
And you don't need a motion, it's just committee meeting.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Thank you everybody for watching.
We are live. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We are now adjourned.
Good night.
It's off.